Good morning. Welcome back to the Footballtribeug channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Hope you guys are doing well. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning down in Kampala, bright and sunny out there. We'll keep this one short because I'm time constrained. I do have a meeting to run to, so you'll forgive me if we keep this one short. But we'll do our best to get at least some of the gist of the conversation from this morning, and then we'll look to do another broadcast later among all the other things that we plan to do around for you. But it's good to have you back. It's always nice to hear from you. For those of you that were with us late last night, thank you for joining in to that broadcast on the back of that victory. Of course, it's not what we are speaking about, but it goes without saying that Atlanta did qualify for the Europa Champions League after beating up against AC Roma, who had not lost a game in 2019. So that action did transpire on last night. But of course, from yesterday's main headlines, it was everything Xabi Alonso and Carlo Ancelotti. As far as managerial switches are concerned, we all know about Xabi Alonso being destined for a move to Real Madrid, but it's all but done for Carlo Ancelotti to join Brazil as the national team head coach, and that deal was announced yesterday. Of course, what we're getting this morning, as per Fabrizio Romano's feed, he says that Real Madrid have decided to try and bring in a new centre back this summer. Clear indication from Xabi Alonso accepted by the management. The club also keeps looking for a new left back as a part of the transfer strategy. Now, for those of you that managed to be with us last night, we did speak about Real Madrid's left back position and the centre back role, given all the injuries that they have to deal with, and bearing in mind that they are going to be featuring in the FIFA Club World Cup. So we spoke about that a bit. And we did mention at least two names for their left back role in Milos Kakes at AFC Bournemouth, as well as Nuno Mendes. And we did, sort of mumble about a few other teams, but we did not find really any solid options that Real Madrid could latch on as far as the Premier League teams were concerned. But that's there. And then, of course, we discussed a bit of that. We looked at, we spoke about the central defense, problems and all the injuries that they did have, although we did not mention some of the defensive options that could be signing. Last summer, they were in for Lenny Euro, but they lost that battle to Manchester United as the 19-year-old then moved to Manchester United. So they lost out that battle. Of course, they do have William Saliba as their prime target, but we do know for a fact that Arsenal are trying to tie him down to a new contract and that kind of thing. So we'll wait to see how that transpires. And then, so, I mean, they really have to look around for good centre backs. But centre backs, unlike the striking market, there's no shy of good defenders, really. The good defenders are really out there. Because when you look, for example, just look at Arsenal, they do have Carafiori, they do have Yurian Timber, Takahiro Tomiyasu, Jakub Kiwior, Gabriel Magalhaes, William Saliba. All those are decent centre backs, including Ben White. Majority of those are centre backs who have been then moved to play some left back and right back, respectively. So you go to a team like Nottingham Forest, and they do have Nikola Milenkovic, a very, very good centre back. Morillo in there, very good centre back. You go to, of course, at Brighton, Lois Duncan's kind of edged it out. But when you look around, when you look at the likes of Mickey Van de Ven, Cristiano Romero, they're good centre backs, although they've been hampered with injuries this season. So that goes without saying. You look at Chelsea, there's Levi Colwill in there. If Real Madrid want to come calling, I know the Real Madrid are also looking at Dinhausen. Is a name that has been mentioned in their ranks as one of the potential players that they could go on to sign. So and that kind of thing. So it's really interesting to see what Real Madrid will be looking to do in the transfer window or in the transfer market as far as the defensive options are concerned. But they'll be looking to do business. So welcome back to the channel. Kindly like the broadcast. Kindly let me know where you're joining us from. Kindly subscribe to the channel. If you're new here, I'll be really, really glad to hear from you, where you're joining us from, what city you're in, what country you're in, and if you do me the absolute honor of subscribing to the channel, I really, really be much appreciated. Thank you to all of you that were with us late last night, almost between, I think, 10:45 p.m. to about 11:35 p.m. That's in the night. Thank you so much for the love and support, for the dedication, for being with us for the length of time that we are with us. Our broadcast was about 40 minutes plus. So your efforts were really, really much appreciated. So good, really to have you. Now, like I said, the gist of the conversation still yesterday revolved around none other than Carlo Ancelotti and him being announced as the Brazil national team. Now, in the wake of that news, of course, we've had a lot of news make the rounds in that regard. It is expected that he will be earning a salary of $195,000 per week. Almost double than his two predecessors. So that's quite interesting to pick up on. But more importantly, as of yesterday, we're getting reports that he is looking to bring back Casemiro as well as Neymar back into the fold of the Brazil national team. And for me, that was quite interesting because you and I both know or can agree to the fact that Casemiro and Neymar are way beyond their prime, they're past their prime. But then it also begs a question of which Brazilians are in their prime, and not too many out there, I might mention, because Rafinha at Barcelona, Vinicius Jr., who has not had the best of seasons, Rodrigo Goes, who has not had the best of seasons, Jellington, who has had sort of a good season because he did win the Carabao Cup with Newcastle. Of course, that it goes without saying that known to me is beyond the reach of the South Africa or of the Brazilian, league and that kind of thing. But when you look at around Europe, where they get to call many of their players, when you look around, you do not see so many standout Brazil national team players. And to be fair to maybe Casemiro and maybe to Ancelotti, who apparently has a very good relationship with Casemiro. Of course, he's never coached Neymar. But he says he does want so many leaders within his squad. That's why he's going to look to senior players to bring them back to the club. Sorry, to bring them back to the national team fold. And that's why you're hearing names like Casemiro and Neymar. Now, Neymar's campaigns have been really hampered by injuries. That's why he ended up leaving, I think, Al Nassr and went to Santos, where his contract is ending, from what I do gather, and that kind of thing. So what does Carlo Ancelotti bring to the Brazil national team? He brings a plethora of experience after being one of the most successful managers in European football. That is without a doubt. Of course, he's had stints at AC Milan. He's had where he won the UEFA Champions League in 2007. Never mind that he lost the 2005 final to Liverpool, but won the 2007 final against Liverpool. He's won the league, that's the Premier League, with Chelsea. He's managed at Everton. He's been to Napoli. He's been to Real Madrid on two different occasions. Back in 2014, when he was winning them the La Decima, that's in the post-Jose Mourinho era. So he won them the La Decima in 2014. Of course, then he goes out and Zidane comes in for a spell there. And eventually, when Zidane left in 2021, that's when he does return, and he won them to Champions League titles, and including the league. That's the Spanish La Liga last season. So for me, he's been really, really successful. He did have a stint at Bayern Munich. He did have one at Paris Saint-Germain. So he's really a very experienced manager that I think Brazil could use, especially for all the lack of success that they've had. You look back at 2014 when they were being humiliated by Germany when they hosted the FIFA World Cup, and Germany put in 7-10. You look at their escapades in 2018, and they were no better, really. You look at them in Qatar in 2022, I think bound out at the quarterfinals or thereabout. So really, they've sort of struggled. They've sort of struggled for form. And the other advantage is that in that cohort of you will have players that you will be familiar with, having been with them at Real Madrid: Vinicius Jr., Rodrigo, Eder Militao, Enrique, So those kinds of players are some of the best players that there is at the Brazil national team. Of course, Enrique is quite very young, but you know, that's to be, expected. And then it is also reported that he's been promised a bonus of about 5 million euros should he guide them to the triumph of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Now, the thing about tournament football is that even teams that do not have the best squads can go ahead and win it. For those of you that remember, I think Denmark in '92, was it 92 or 90? Italia 90. No, I think that is the World Cup. Italia 90 is the World Cup. But I think in the Euros 92, thereabout. So you remember Greece, I think in 2000. So again in the Euros. So this, when it comes to tournament football, is that one, you go over, you can tussle it out, you can see out games, there are bad moments, more like we also sometimes see in the UEFA Champions League. You take your moments, you win a game, you sometimes you have to grind it out for a result without the best of teams, and then you eventually win it. So, and that kind of thing. Of course, when you look back at that Italy team that won the Euros 2020 that were played in 2021, I do not think pound for pound, talent for talent, in every position they had the very best of players, but they went on to win it, and that was under what's his name, the former Man City manager. His name eludes me, but if you do remember it, kindly put it down for me in the comment section. So he's it's that kind of football that it's not impossible for Brazil to go and clinch their sixth FIFA World Cup title, because you sort of you have a manager with the experience. Of course, he doesn't have national team experience, but that I think maybe that comes with its own challenge in itself. But we'll wait to see how he does get to deal with that. But he does begin his role on May 26th. That's when he is expected to start his role at the Brazil national team. Of course, it's not been the best of seasons for him. Losing to Barcelona 4 times in a calendar year is never really good. As far as Real Madrid are concerned, your biggest rival beating you 4 times in a season is never looked good. They beat you to win the Copa del Rey. They beat you to win the Spanish La Liga, because Barcelona need just one victory to seal that one, following that 4-3 victory in the El Clasico over the weekend on Sunday, and that kind of thing. So for me, it's really going to be kind of interesting to see how he goes about that. Then maybe so, like I said, to the defense of Casemiro over the last 2 months or 3, thereabout, he's been an incredible player for that Manchester United side, especially in the UEFA Europa League. When you look, he did score twice in the home and away leg tie against Athletic Bilbao in the semi-finals. He's offered them. You remember winning a penalty against Lyon in that 5-4 victory at Old Trafford, and also providing the assist for Harry Maguire's goal that won the tie. He was involved in all the 3 goals as United came back from 4 goals to 2 down to win it. At the death of the hour in that quarterfinal game. So he's been that kind of player who, by the way, earlier on in Ruben Amorim's tenure at Manchester United, was getting frozen out sort of in the team, and all the expectation, all the speculation was how we did have was that he was destined for the exit. But I wouldn't be surprised that based over the performances he's had in the last couple of months, that they would reconsider keeping him for him to see out the rest of his contract, which I think has a year left to it, and spoken before saying that he's not really looking forward to leaving the club because he wants to see out his contract. Of course, then it also goes with that, it has to be mentioned that he's on a very huge, lucrative contract, which he may not, get the chance to get anywhere else unless he does decide to go to the Saudi Pro League. So around Europe is about what, on £300,000 or £350,000 a week. So for me, that's good, and maybe that's his number one motivating factor for him to stay within Europe. But of course, it comes with that attachment. Oh, he loves it in Manchester, his family love it there, and that kind of thing. But that's all for us there to digest. Then the other thing, as before we wound the day up yesterday, among the most trending news that was going on in as far as transfers are concerned. But before we mention that transfer saga, Carlo Ancelotti's son, and this is David Ancelotti, is being considered for the Rangers managerial role. He's one of the candidates in the shortlist. That was according to Fabrizio Romano, who said Rangers have made contact with David Ancelotti as candidate for a new head coach job. As then he went on to say more candidates are involved. Of course, David Ancelotti will be leaving Real Madrid, as he's been part of Carlo Ancelotti's coaching staff. He's been with his dad for quite some time and that kind of thing. But he's been with him. But remember, when a new manager comes in, usually they do come with their own staff, and that's what is happening with Xabi Alonso. He will be coming with his own staff. So that's why you have so many. You have so many coaches leave. That's how we know it does play out over the years across across all, across a multiple number of clubs, that when you have a manager sack, he goes out with the rest of his coaching staff. That's usually how these things play out. At least about three, a minimum of 2 to 3, coaching team goes out with the manager. And then, of course, clubs, much like in politics, they do sort of have a permanent, team members. I'll give you an example that, let's use the example in politics. When you have, let's say, the president's residency, which is usually state house or whatever you may call it, is that they do have permanent staff who usually do not change for over a long period of time. But then the president, as a new president walks in, they also come with their own staff, like chief of staff, press secretary, or those kinds of members. But back doors, maybe the chefs, the people that loan the more, the people that do other things, maybe some bit of researchers, usually mainstays in those jobs. So that's what really happens in football. So David Ancelotti, they are being considered for a role with Rangers. Then, like I was mentioning, one of the hottest conversations as far as transfers are concerned yesterday was a deal linking Andre Santos for a potential move to Arsenal, with reports that PSG are also trying to sign him. And now Andre Santos did join Chelsea from Vasco da Gama in January 2023, when Chelsea was still under the charges of Graham Potter at the time. I remember, I think they were about 10th in the Premier League at the time, but they were still signing a whole host of players. Chelsea did invade the South American market and signed a whole lot of players, with, I think, a vision of, adding a bit of value to them and then selling them expensively. And I think it's going to pay out on some level, because that was the same window in which they signed Benoit Badiashile. That was the same window. So they signed him from Vasco da Gama for about 18 million pounds. Now, although it's not yet stated how much they do want to want out of him, or whether they would even be open to selling him, that is a whole different story altogether. But he's a player that Arsenal are looking to sign. That is Andre Santos. When he was joining Chelsea, joined at the same time when they also signed David Datro Fofana, I think, for about 10.5 million pounds in that same window. They were signing him from Molde, so alongside Benoit Badiashile. So he then went out on loan to France, and that's where he's really impressed most people, and that's where he's attracted the attention of clubs like PSG, and who have won the league there, and as well as Arsenal. So we'll get time and discuss that potential deal in high depth, because I did see his squad about 8 goals and provided 3 assists during that spell that he's had in League One. So will be interesting to see what decision Chelsea make about him as a player, whether they want him to return to the club and that kind of thing. So yes, he scored 9 goals and provided 3 assists in as far as the French League One is concerned this season, where he's spent most of this time with Strasbourg. For those of you that do remember, we spoke about Strasbourg prior to the return leg between PSG and Arsenal, because Strasbourg had beaten up against PSG at the weekend before, leading to that particular game. That was last week on Wednesday. So we spoke about Strasbourg. That's why he's been playing his football. So again, one of those players that a team buys maybe fairly cheaply, and then 1 to 3 years down the road is ready to generate them a good amount of cash. So let's wait and see how that all spans out. But allow me to keep it here for now and wish you a wonderful rest of the day. Like I told you, I do have some meetings to run to, but be sure we'll be back just in time to, discuss more sport. If we do get the time, maybe we'll do a lunchtime broadcast. Maybe we'll look to do it much later on in the evening, depending on what permutations time does allow us in the course of the day. Otherwise, stay blessed for now.